Hello, we are live today on Thursday, August 7th, 2025. And today's episode is episode number 154. This will be part two of my preparation for acuCONNECT 2025. So you can check out not part four. Hold on, let me fix that. This is part two. Don't know how that got in there. This is part two. You want to check out part one of my acuCONNECT preparation, you can check out episode 153, which is on the page there. Let me fix that as well. All right, you can check out episode 153 for part one, but today is part two, which you can find at augforums.com/episode 154. That's the episode page that I use to drop any related links from the episode. And that's also the place where you can go to drop comments on the episode. And that's that. So in part one, back in episode 153, I outlined how I'm using this live broadcast format to cover my preparation for my session at acuCONNECT 2025. Mainly because I'm lazy. I just don't have the time to put together that nice comprehensive blog post with a bunch of screenshots that I would like to do. And before I proceed, I am using a different mic setup today, so just give me a second while I make sure that my mic is working. Or if there's anyone out there live, you could let me know if my mic is working. And oops, sounds like it is. All right, good. Got that figured out. So I'm using this basically to outline my prep and how I built stuff. I know it's not the best format for you, and I apologize for that, but it's the only way I can get something out there. I know if I were to put it on my list to write that blog post, it's just not going to happen right now. So at least there's something showing how I built this stuff. I like the acuCONNECT sessions. They're typically about 25, 30 minutes, so nice and short. I'll use that to focus on why I built what I built and show what I built. And then I'll point people to these live broadcasts if they want to look at more details about how to build it. I mentioned acuCONNECT a couple times now. You can check out acu-connect.com on the screen there if you'd like to register for the virtual conference coming up next month. I believe it is, let me pull up their website. It's September 18th and 19th. And there's a big register button right there on the front of the website for acuCONNECT 2025. All right, so let me pull up what I'd like to cover today. Now, first off, I'm definitely not as prepared as I was for part one. Part one, I had already built out my Excel prototype and I walked through a few things, so I knew what to cover. Today will be more of a build stuff on the fly. It hasn't been built yet. But where I left off in part one is I built a prototype in Excel. And I like using Excel to prototype stuff because you can generate sample data really easily just using random number generators. And we covered that in the last episode. But then obviously we want to connect this to Acumatica. And so Excel is good to mock up something and show what you're, not just show, but really figure out yourself what you're trying to build. And actually, I should put a screenshot. Let's see if I have a screenshot. Give me a second. I should pull up one of my screenshots from last time. Here we go. So this is what I mocked up in Excel. And You've got two things going on here. The service level is the left axis, and the demo data is not great yet because you can see on the left side, it looks like it's mostly 95%. Service level is something that operations cares about. And the calculation I'm using is taking quantity that you shipped to your customers, dividing it by the quantity that they ordered. So if they ordered, and I'm doing it by quantity, totaling up all the quantities. If they ordered 1,000 different quantities of your different products and you were able to ship them 950 because 50 quantity you didn't have for various reasons, or you didn't get it there on time, then it'd be 950 divided by 1,000, which would be a 95% service level. So this is relevant for a distribution company. That's your service level. And then that's the blue line. Then we're showing it compared to the inventory value. Those numbers you can see on the right side. You can see it gets up to around $90,000 in April. That orange line is the inventory value, and that's something that accounting cares about. So operations typically cares about service level. They want a high service level. Accounting cares about your inventory value. They want a low inventory balance because it ties up cash. And then on the bottom, we have weeks. So that was another thing that I covered last time. I want weeks and not individual days and not months. So that's the target. And now for today, what we will focus on is let's think about how to map this into Acumatica. And here's where I'm not so prepared for today, but we'll figure it out. And I like this live stream format because it enables me to get things out there that otherwise would not get out there. I just don't have the time these days to write comprehensive blog posts with screenshots, even though that's better for you. But at least this is some way to get something out there. And hopefully it's better than nothing. So with this live stream format, I think I've been noticing how my kids consume content these days, a lot of live streams, and it's not your super polished presentation. So you can just tinker, experiment. That's the expectation that I'm setting here. But I did jot down a few things. So first, I've got a technical challenges section you can see on the screen. Got 4 things there. These are just things I could think of that would be challenges when trying to build that Excel chart in Acumatica. So the first is I want to be able to group by week and not individual days, also not individual months. Typically, your reporting is going to break down by month. There's a financial period field in Acumatica. It could also be by financial period, which I think for most people winds up being month. But I don't want to do it that way. I want to group it by week. So that's going to be a technical challenge. I can already tell. The second technical challenge is going to be plotting 2 different lines with 2 different axes. So if we come back to this, we've got 2 different lines and they're completely different things. The service value is a percentage, which is really a decimal number. So 95% is 0.95. It's less than 1. Then inventory value goes all the way up to almost $100,000. If you were to plot these 2 lines on a regular chart, that service level blue line would be all the way on the bottom because it's 0.95, 0.94. It's almost 0. It would just be a flat line on the bottom. And so we need a way, and Excel can do this, but we would need a way in Acumatica to have these 2 different axes, the service level axis on the left, which is the 94 to 95%, and the inventory value axis on the right, which is the 0 to $100,000. So that's definitely going to be a technical challenge that we're going to need to figure out. And I have a feeling we're going to wind up in Power BI. Spoiler alert there. But I wanted to at least take a look at what we could do in Acumatica. And that'll be the focus of this episode. There is an option. You'll see I put a little bullet point underneath the plotting two different lines with two different axes. We could divide everything by the highest value and plot percentages. So that would be a way to get everything on one axis. Basically, what we would do there is service level is already good because it's a percentage already. For inventory value, we would take the value at a point in time and divide it by whatever the highest value is. So you can see it's hard to tell what that is. It maybe around 85 to 90,000. It gets up to that in April. That'd be your biggest number. And all the other numbers, you would divide it by that number. And so basically you'd be showing inventory value as a percentage of the highest value that it ever got to. And that'd be a way to turn inventory value into a percentage. Then you could plot it on the same chart as service level. And in theory, the lines would still look the same. The only thing you'd be losing is you would lose the visibility into what those inventory values were because you wouldn't have that right axis that's going from $0 to $100,000. So that would be a way to potentially do it in Acumatica because I think that's going to wind up being our main challenge. And we'll see what happens. I'm going to figure this out on the fly here in this episode. Maybe we do want to try that. I'm not sure. Another technical challenge, if we wind up punting over to Power BI, and I should have listed that as a bullet point down below, but oops. If we wind up going over to Power BI, we're going to have a challenge with exporting large amounts of data over OData, which is how you get stuff into Power BI. There is a tool out there called DataSelf ETL Plus that can handle as large of amount of data as you need, but regular OData, that'll be a challenge. And then the last bullet point is how long it takes to run, especially when you're applying filters. So if I pull up that Excel file, let me get that pulled up here. Sorry, I've got two screens going on, just getting stuff set up here. I'll make sure I share the right window. Okay, put myself down there. So here's that Excel mockup. And what we looked at last time, this filters really well. So if I click on hand tools, the first time it'll take a little bit, but not a lot. We're probably talking 10 seconds or so or less. You can see it changed. I click on maintenance, boom, changes right away. Shop garage, boom, within 2 seconds, changes right away. That's something that we could do in Excel or Power BI. I don't think we're going to get that behavior out of any of the Acumatica reporting tools or any ERP reporting tools for that matter. So that's kind of a nice thing to have. But if we wanted that, that would be a technical challenge. Like how long does it take to run? Let's see, let me get this back on the screen. So that's the main technical challenges that I've outlined. I want to work through those in the regular Acumatica reporting tools in this episode. So we might end up just kicking it over to Power BI. That would be the next episode if we do that. But at least for today, let's work through the Acumatica reporting tools. I think it's a good exercise whenever you're doing a report. Even if you eliminate a reporting tool within 60 seconds, at least consider it as an option. And so that's what I've got listed down here. So the first reporting tool I've got listed is the financial report writer. I already know that one's not going to work. because it only works on the general ledger and project ledger data. So, but let's at least pull up Acumatica and look at that. So let me pull up Acumatica and let's find a financial report like this profit and loss. So this is the financial report writer in Acumatica. It's similar to a old financial report writer called FRX, where you design rows, columns, and sometimes unit sets. If I edit this report, we can see those three components. We can see the row set, the column set, the unit set. And the main limitation here is we can see it right here. The type, you can either report on general ledger data or project ledger data. I need to report on the inventory module. That's not an option here. So we can quickly eliminate the financial report writer in Acumatica. Next, we can look at doing a generic inquiry. And I'm going to come back to that because that's actually, you know what? I'm not even going to come back. Let's dive into that part. So pulling the data out of Acumatica is, in my opinion, the most difficult part. You got to figure out how to pull that data. And I haven't done that yet, so we're going to do that on the fly. But we got to pull the data, and then we're going to figure out where to go from there. We could either stay in a generic inquiry. That would not give us the line chart format that I mocked up in Excel. It would just be data. But we might end up just staying there. Or we can then build on top of that generic inquiry to do a pivot table or a dashboard chart, or wind up doing something in Report Designer. Report Designer does have charting capabilities, although I have not yet learned how to use that. But we could at least look at where that might be if we were to go down that route. So we'll spend most of our time today, I think, on the generic inquiry, but then we can look at those other three things as well. All right, so before I get into Acumatica, I do like to take a couple minute break on these live episodes. I wouldn't be able to do these without the support from Trailed. Trailed is an AP automation solution for Acumatica. My opinion, though, we do more than just AP automation. We also do payments. We also do fraud protection. I don't know anyone else is doing that at the moment. But we're one of 4 finalists for ISV Partner of the Year last year, which means that that's not a popularity contest. You get ISV Partner of the Year by selling your product. And so we were one of 4 finalists, the only AP automation solution to make the final 4. And I like the product. So even though I'm mostly in like a marketing/business development role with Trailed, which enables me to do these kind of live broadcasts, I'm also pretty hands-on with the product, just because, as you can tell in these live broadcasts, I like being hands-on with things. So I do like the product, talk to a lot of happy customers, and including just last week, talked to Cheryl, a CFO at one of our customers, and I got 2 short videos. They're both less than 45 seconds. I'm going to play. They're just clips from a webinar that we did with Cheryl last week. The first one of these clips is about the fraud protection side of Trail. So if you think about your credit card, your personal credit card, you've probably received at some point in time a text message letting you know that there's potential fraud on your credit card. Maybe it got used at a gas station in another state. So the algorithm can tell it probably wasn't you because you just used your card at the grocery store nearby your house. And so you're probably familiar with those text messages you get on your personal credit card. But if you think about it, it's kind of funny that you get that on your personal financials, but there's nothing similar running on the millions of dollars that are going through organizations. So Trail does that, basically give you that functionality on your organizational spend, and a bunch of other nice stuff we do there. But we'll highlight the fraud protection just because it's a differentiator for us. And I'll play this 44-second video. This is a clip from Cheryl during our webinar last week talking about the fraud protection.
Well, you know, it was never on my radar before. And when it was introduced during the sales process, like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Because now, and in fact, I use it a lot. Like if I see an employee and they have a really high expense report, I'm like, where did the person go? Their expense reports are never that high. I'll go look and I'm like, oh, I wonder what they were doing. We had fraud. We've had fraud before, and we've had checks that were cashed. And I thought, you know, I need to make sure we're ahead of the fraud issue, because it's not an if, it's a when. And I hate to say that, but that's really what it's all about, right? So it's like, how can we have something that will help us? And none of the programs that I looked at had anything close to what Trailed had from the standpoint of a risk level.
So Cheryl talks there about the risk level. Every invoice that goes through Trailed gets scored with a risk level of high, medium, or low. And that's something, I don't know anyone else out there who's doing that. It's kind of complicated how it works. There's a bunch of artificial intelligence involved. But I think it's interesting that Cheryl talks about how it wasn't even on her radar when she was first looking at Trail. And it's not on most people's radars, I'm finding. But if you look at, and I'll probably play this in the next live broadcast that I do, but basically scamming is an industry that's on the rise. I'll just say that much. And so anyways, Trail's got that functionality to protect companies from fraud and score all of your invoice with a fraud score. And then I'll play one more video here from Cheryl, and this is just about her experience implementing Trail. And my opinion, this is probably the biggest reason why we were Final Four for ISV Partner of the Year for Acumatica last year, and the only AP automation solution in the Final Four. It all comes down to execution. And Cheryl talks about that here in this next 34-second video.
So I need to stop and say that one of the things that why I'm such an advocate for Trailed is because when I needed something or I wanted something, the answer wasn't, no, it doesn't do that. It was more like, oh, I think I have a solution for that. We can implement this or put the security in, or we can add that box. We can pull it from Acumatica because they're so well integrated with Acumatica. Nothing seemed impossible. But I don't even know what I didn't get, because what I got is what I needed.
There's a lot of software out there, not a lot of solutions out there. And it's not just about plugging in a piece of software and it works magically. You got to make it work for your company. And my opinion, that's a big reason why Trailed has been so popular, is our team executes really well. So there's my little break just to tell you about Trailed. If you are interested to learn more, you can head over to trailedsoftware.com, click that book a demo button up on the top, and you can at least spend an hour taking a look at the solution and deciding if it's a good fit for your business. My opinion, you know, one reason why I'm allowed to do this type of just serve the community with non-Trailed content is because every single Acumatica customer is using accounts payable. And in my opinion, every single Acumatica customer can benefit from Trailed. There's no reason for you to manually enter accounts payable invoices anymore. The artificial intelligence, machine learning, that technology has reached the point where it can do that very well. And then you still, of course, manage the process, but saves you a ton of time, frees you up to do other things, and in some cases even scales down your need for accounts payable clerks. So I think it's something that everyone can use, and I think it's definitely worth heading over to trailedsoftware.com and taking a look at just booking an hour demo to take a look at the solution. Okay, so that's my little break, telling you what I'm up to with Trail. Let's go ahead and get back to what we're building for acuCONNECT. All right, so we landed on the generic inquiry part. So here's where we need to pull up Acumatica and dive into how we're going to pull this data out. Now, before I pull up Acumatica, let me pull back up our Excel file. So what I covered last time is I covered how I built this in Excel. And I generated a bunch of million rows of random sales order line data, million rows of random inventory line data. You can tell by the way I named these tables, SO line and INTRAN, I was already thinking that those are the tables that I would pull them from in Acumatica. So let's start off by designing two generic inquiries, one to pull our sales order line data, one to pull our inventory line data. But one thing I'm conscious of here is I don't need to pull all of the individual lines. Really, all I'm interested to do is to get a total by date, sorry, not by date, by week and by item. Now I'm thinking about this on the fly here, and I think we can actually go further. Let's just get a total by item class. So I'm making some decisions on the fly. One thing I had tried to think about doing in my Excel mockup was including customer data, but I realized we do have customer data, customers that we can get from the sales order lines. We don't have customers when we're just looking at inventory values. At least most companies don't, not unless you're like lot tracking and associating those lots with customers somehow. So I think I'm going to eliminate this from the idea. We'll take out customers. That just leaves items as the only common thing between sales order lines and inventory transactions. And even here, let's just make the decision. I'm not going to try to slice and dice by items. Let's just stick to this item class idea. So we just want to be able to filter by item class like this. Now, I'm not going to have this sample data in Acumatica yet, so I'm going to be working with much less interesting sample data, but we'll at least build something. And then my thought is in a future episode, one of these preparation episodes, we can figure out how to populate this sample data in Acumatica. I think what I'm going to do there is cheat and just like insert it into the database and break my Acumatica. You would never do this in the real world, but at least I want to be able to, whatever I build, if we can pull it off in Acumatica, I want to be able to show interesting lines, at least something that's going up and down with the sample data that I've generated here. So I think let's just total it up. We need to total up by week. We need to total up by item class. And I think that's it. I want it to be summarized because I don't want to pull in millions and millions of rows of sales order data and inventory data in case your company has a lot of data in your Acumatica. I want to make this run as fast as possible. And the first consideration when you're trying to make something run as fast as possible is pulling the least amount of data that you actually need. So let's come over here to a generic inquiry. And I'll just go with the same order that I had them listed in Excel. Actually, let me get this pulled up. Let's pull our order data first. And let's see, what should we call this? acuCONNECT orders. Let's put this on the menu. Now I'm building this on the fly, so we'll see what happens here. I do not have a plan. I got a general idea in my head, but I haven't tried this yet, and we might run into some dead ends. We'll see. That's the fun of a live stream. All right, so we got our orders. Then, and I'm just gonna grab like the first 500 records to make it run faster. All right, so what do we want? We wanted to grab the item ID Now, oh, sorry, this was just a meaningless number here. We don't need that. I was pulling in the order number. I guess let's pull that in. That could be useful. Then I was pulling in customer, but I decided to get rid of that. So let's forget that. Then I was pulling the actual item ID, but I just decided I'm going to pull the item class instead. So let's just get the summarized item class. This is going to be different for everyone's different environments here, because everyone has a different way that they've segmented, I'm sorry, not that, their item classes. So you can see in this demo Acumatica environment, there's 10 digits, then 3 digits, then 10 digits. And that corresponds to my item classes, 10, 3, and 10. Let's see. So here's an item class. It should be 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's defined by the segmented keys right here. It breaks it down into these 3 segments, and that's what allows it to come up with a tree view where you can see here's like the top level, which is just the first segment, and then here's a bottom level, which has the other segments filled out. And so for the sake of this report, I'm only going to care about the first segment in the item class, which in my sample data is the first 10 characters. Now we might circle back around this and figure out a way to make this dynamic, meaning it would automatically figure out how long your first segment is and only grab that first segment. But for the sake of this acuCONNECT report, I'm just going to hard code this number in, and then you would change this in your environment to be whatever your first segment is, whatever that parent item class length is. So to do that, we're going to need to, actually, I think I can use the related table for this. We're going to need to join our SO line to our inventory, our items table. And then within the items table, I don't think we have what we need yet. Let's do a quick check here. I'm running Acumatica locally on my laptop, and I just turned it on before this broadcast. When you do that, it takes a little bit for the environment to cache the data and kind of get up to speed, warm up here. Just wait for that. All right, let's pop into the inventory item table and look at the data. I really like this feature. This is called the DAX schema browser. Acumatica added, I don't know, in the last couple of years, I think. It allows you to quickly pop in and see what data is out there in a specific data access class. And I'm curious about the item class. So where is it? Actually, it's probably easier to find it here. Item class. So item class ID. And if we look up item class ID, here we go. This is showing us the item class that I want, but I have a feeling it's actually not what I want. I think the Acumatica is being too smart for me. So let's drop it in there and see what happens. One way to see the data that's actually in there is to wrap it in a function called convert it to a string. I have a feeling this is just a meaningless number. Let's see what happens. Yep, that's what I was suspecting. So this is just a meaningless item class identifier in the database. So what that means is we are going to need to do another table here. So let's add related table off the inventory item. And join to this item class table. I also, just by habit, I have found back in my SQL days, left joins tend to run a little faster than inner joins. There's probably huge debates on that if you're really into SQL, but just in general, in this case, it's not going to matter anyway, so I always change those to left joins. I would love to see someone do a feature request to just make left join the default join. I believe Holly Clark mentioned this also when I was at the Acumatica user group in Lancaster. That'd be cool to have that just default to left join. All right, but we got that, and now we can come over here and we can pull the item class. All right, so we got the item class, and the reason why I had to get the item class from here is because it was that meaningless number when I got it off the inventory ID. I wouldn't have been able to say just grab the first 10 characters. It would not have worked. But now that I've got the real item class CD, we can do this. And we can use this left function to say just grab the first 10 characters. And here's where you'd come in and change this to be whatever length your first segment is in your item classes. I also want to add caption to the screen. And I want to say this is item class, this is order. And I'm going to call this item class parent because it's just the first segment. I think for a lot of companies, that first segment would be the parent. They might even talk about it that way. It's the parent level or the master item class, whatever that main category is of your item classes. And I want to do this because I don't want a ton of item classes. I want some broad stroke categories. And we can just do a quick check on that by adding a quick pivot table. And let's just see how many of these there are. Oh, interesting. So yeah, in my not so great Acumatica sample data, well, I should say, thank you, Doug Johnson, for all the work you did to build out the Acumatica sample data. It is really good. But when you come down, you try to report on it, that's where it's just not as interesting as real data for a company. So it's only going to break down to 2 item classes here, but that's okay. We're going to end up populating our sample data later anyways. But you can see it's nice and clean. These 2 item classes, parents, would be what would then land here on your ability to filter the report. Okay, so we got that, and I just wanted to look at that, so I don't need that anymore. All right, what else do we want? We got the order, got the item class. We need to know, oh yes, we need to know the ship date. Okay, so I don't even remember if this is in the table. Let's find out. I think I did find a ship date in here, which I've never used before. I was pretty happy to find it. Yeah, here we go. Oh no, that's the ship on date. Oh, it's not in there. Okay, we're gonna have to do some extra work to do this. Oh no, maybe the invoice date. that what it was? Remember back when I was building that Excel file, I was trying to think of where I'd wind up getting this from Acumatica. I think it was this one. Now here's where, reporting starts to get messy because it's going to depend on your environment, and it'll depend on things like, do you ship an order multiple times? Do you allow back orders where you would send someone what you have and then you do a separate shipment to send them the rest of the stuff? In this case, we're looking at the sales order lines. So it'd be okay if you shipped an order multiple times, but then it would mess up if you shipped an individual line multiple times. So maybe they ordered 10, you send them 8, and a week later on the same sales order line, you send them the remaining 2. This says it would be the original sale date, so it'd probably wind up being that first invoice date, but I'm not sure, and I'm not even going to go there. But I'm just, for the sake of this report, going to keep it simple and try using this. But I'm just pointing out that in the real world, you'd want to look at this and see what date's getting populated and consider if you're shipping multiple times against an individual sales order line. I guess I already have this open. Let's just take a look. I believe this did have data in it. Let's just take a look at one and make sure that that invoice date makes sense. Here we go. So let's will that get rid of the blanks? I guess not. Let's maybe just sort it this way. Oh no, I only have 2 that have data in it. Okay, let's see. I remember looking at this and it was not just 2 with data, whatever field I was looking at. So bear with me. I think there might have been another field. I think this was it. Okay. No, it was something else. I think I just remember what it was. Ship. It was a shipment table. Actually, it might have been on the order itself. I think it was this one. So scratch what I said about shipping multiple times against an individual line. I think the one I'm going to wind up going with is when the order was shipped. And so it would matter if you shipped multiple times against the order. But not scheduled ship. We want invoice date. Sorry. Invoice date. I thought it was invoice. Sorry, this was like a couple of weeks ago. I looked at this and I didn't have time to prepare before this live broadcast. So, all right. Yeah, that's it. And let's just take a quick look at that data. I think I've found the right one, but I want to just make sure. Let's dump all this data out to Excel and just make sure that we do get that invoice date on the majority of our records. I think we will wind up getting that. $9,000 rows shouldn't take too long, but it is running locally on my laptop. So it's just gotta pull all that together and hopefully we'll get it soon here. There we go. Turn this into a table just to make it easier to look at. Do a quick pivot table on it. And let's see, the order type, invoice date. Oh no, it's not happening for the regular orders. I might not have found the right one. The one I found, I thought it was populating for regular orders, like sale SO order types. Let's keep hunting. Let's see. See, this looks like it's the one I want. Ship date or invoice date would work fine, I think, but this is actually the date it's scheduled to ship, so it's not the right one. Okay, where else would I maybe have gotten this? Okay, maybe I'm gonna table that one and come back to it. I want to make sure I can get the other fields that I want. So I do want quantity ordered and quantity shipped. Those I should be good. Because if I look at the sales order line data, I believe I have both of those available. Here's my order quantity. And here's my shipped quantity. So let's grab both of those. You know what? I think I want order type as well. Mostly interested in SOs. I'm going to leave these other order types in here just so I have more data, but it's all going to end up getting replaced with my sample data anyways. Let's find one maybe where the quantity ordered doesn't equal quantity shipped if we can. Let's do a quick calculation on that. Let's see. I just want to validate one of these lines. See if we can find one that's like didn't ship what we ordered. There we go. Yeah, here's a good example. So let's go into 1406. It's an SO. And which one was it? Here we go. So we wanted 178. This quantity on shipments field shows 135, and I just wanted to make sure that on the shipment itself, it shows 135. So let's drill into the shipment. Basically, I'm just checking to see if that ship quantity field is reliable on the order line. In a perfect world, you would get it from the shipment, but I'm just trying to save myself some time. And in my experience, that shipped quantity is pretty reliable. I haven't seen examples where it's off from the ship data, but if I were to design a really robust report, I'd probably want to pull that off the actual shipped records and not the order summary field. But let's just at least get comfortable that at least for our purposes for this acuCONNECT sample report here, let's just get comfortable that at least for this one record, it is pulling the correct quantity. I don't know why this is taking so long. 64, maybe I can pull it up on my own. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like it's shipped. Oh, there's only this order only got shipped once. So what was our order? 1406, 1406. This one. It did say we shipped 135. Okay, good. So I just wanted to make sure we're at fields somewhat reliable. I think it'll be good enough for this report that we're building here. All right, so ordered, shipped. Then before we come back to hunting for a good ship date, let's figure out the week. And let's see. So I don't want to grab the regular order date. Actually, what I want to grab is the ship date. Yeah, so we are going to need that first before we try to turn it into a week. All right, so let's circle back on that and keep hunting. I should have jotted down the one that I found. You know, maybe I did actually in my notes. Give me a second to check my notes here. I think I had a notes document for this. It's not there. We'll just keep hunting. Nope, not there. Okay, so let's come back and keep hunting. I might end up just using this SO order shipment. And maybe that is what I am trying to think of here. The problem with this is if you have multiple shipments against an order, you're going to end up double counting your order quantities. Let's think about that. But yeah, just for the sake of this sample report here, we might end up needing to do that. Because we're not building a perfect report, we're building a prototype that you could then figure out some of these finer details in your specific environment. Guess we should make sure this has a ship date in there. Yep, it does have a ship date. All right, so if I were to join over to this, I think this could work. All right, so let's go with this. We're already running here an hour into this live stream. I could probably go another 45 minutes or so, and then I'm going to have to stop. So let's see if we can get through this. All right, so I'm going to go with this SO order shipment and use the shipment data from that. I had a feeling that wasn't going to work. That's okay. We can still add it manually. I know we're still on orders, but the inventory transaction data, that should go a lot faster. I think I clicked too many times here. Come on, Acumatica, don't fail me. Click my web server. Actually, I don't know what's doing a ton of work here. Okay, click it once. Are we good? Yeah, we're good now. So I was clicking too fast. Whenever you join over, you want to make sure you hit these primary keys. We're going to break that rule by only using these two. But I think we can get around it. The order is not really going to matter. I'm doing this more just to organize things the way that my brain wants to see it. So don't worry too much about this. Let's make sure, yeah, order number, order type. Yeah, that should work. And then that would allow me to grab that elusive date. Ship date, I think it was. Now, let's fact check some of these. So let's see if we can find one that was shipped multiple times. How am I going to find that? Let's see. Ah, I got an idea. I think I'm going to get an error on this. Yep. So we need to turn the number into a text value. And try that again. And then I'm going to do a pivot. On the key. I'm just looking for, yeah, one that got shipped multiple times. Perfect. There is one. So 00121. Looks like all of them. So line 1. Line 1. We ordered 510. There were 510 that got shipped, but I believe it got shipped across multiple shipments. So this Acer laptop, is that the only one on here? Yeah, so Acer laptop, 510 got shipped. On the first shipment, though, if I look at, oh, didn't even get shipped there. What happened? Oh, yeah, that still works. Okay, so yeah, so this is an issue because as long as you ship more than once against an order, it's going to duplicate the data. So, all right, so this is a good one to hone in on, this order 121. Let's filter that. And let's add in the item temporarily. All right, here's that Acer laptop. So we can see that we ordered 510. Oh, and this is saying we shipped 510. All right, I'm going to have to go a different route. We will get there. The problem here is if we do this, basically what I was looking to do is I can take we're going to wind up grouping on the item class, parent, the date shipped. Oh, and even this could change. No, that'll still be okay. But when we wind up grouping, I can't just sum up the two quantity orders. I'd get 1,020. I'm okay there. I could take the max of that. But this quantity shipped is also duplicating, which does make sense. Oh, maybe I can just take the max of that then. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, that'll work. Let's do that then. Okay, so we're getting duplicate data when we have multiple shipments against a line. This one, they just happen to be shipped on the same day, but more likely you'd wind up with one that's getting shipped across multiple days. And you know what I think I'll do? I'll just I'll put an order through that gives the scenario I want to test, but I think this is still going to work. So I think what we can do, I think we've got almost everything we want. Now we want the week. So for the week, there is a table called date something, date info, maybe? Yeah, date info. And if we pull up date info, let's see what we have. I think we get a week in here. I'm hoping we do. Yeah, week ending. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So this, we're going to use this to convert that date into a week. And I like this. This is even better. I was thinking it might have been like a week number, like week 1, week 2, week 3. I like week ending better because that means something to me. Week number 25 doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not used to thinking about that. So I like week ending. Perfect. All right. So let's add a join from the shipment to date info. So be on the ship date. Yeah, I'll be on the date here. And then I'll just organize this the way that my brain wants to see it. This is all to get the service level calculation, which is definitely the trickier calculation of the two. If I just pull back up our target here, what we're trying to achieve. Inventory value is going to be much simpler, that orange line, but service level, the blue line, we're still working on that. That's definitely the trickier of the two, though. So don't be too scared. This will be a lot easier for our next query that we wind up doing. Okay, so I don't care about date shipped. I actually care about week shipped. And we're going to get that from here. And we're going to get that there. Okay. All right, there we go. Week ship. Let's spot check one of these. So I think we have 1-to-1 open already. This is telling us it shipped the week ending August 11th, 2024. It was dated August 7th. So if I go back to 2024, I guess I can't do that there. Let's just use this one. August 2024, the 7th. Oh, sorry. I can never remember numbers that I'm pulling up. Oh, that is so weird. It really was the 7th. It was exactly a year ago today. That's creepy. Okay. So August 7th. Ooh, this is not looking right. August 7th, 2024 was on a Wednesday. That should say the 10th. But it's saying, oh, it is saying the 11th. Okay, the 11th. And I'll bet it has to do with the time zone. But it has to do with, I'm on Eastern time, which is behind UTC. And so I think it's then it's turning it into UTC. So I'm not going to deal with that here. We could, there's a way to correct the time zone, but I think that's why it's showing the 11th and not the 10th. But as long as I'm getting weekly buckets, I'm happy with that for now. Okay. So we've got a week ending. We've got all the stuff. Now I want to do a test on one of these. So let's do a test. Let's do a new order. I want to do multiple shipments on the order. And I think let's do 2 lines just to give us some interesting data to look at. You can see I'm experimenting with the new UI here in this particular environment. And maybe I should flip back because I don't really know how to use it that well yet. Looks like this will work. Okay, so let's go with, let's order like 60 of these and 70 of these. And then let's back up the dates. Let's pretend this happened last month. So we'll say we ordered it July 1st. We requested it July, I don't know, maybe July 3rd. Then let's ship some of these on one day and some of these on another day. Get some of these columns organized here. Here's our ordered quantity and here's our shipped quantity. So let's see, let's do a shipment like sometime the following week for maybe most of it. So let's do like 54 and 60. Yeah, I'll do something like that. So 50, maybe 51 and 63. I'm gonna do some weird numbers. 51, 63. So we'll say this happened like the week after, like on the 8th. And we only shipped 54. No, it hasn't created the shipment yet. Here we go. 54 and 63. I think that's enough to do it. Let's find out. Oh yeah, let's do our second shipment as well. So it goes into a back order status. We can see we've shipped 54 and 63. Let's take a look at our new example here. 54 and 63. All good. It's showing up shipped the week of the 13th. That looks about right. Then let's ship the rest of it the following week. So the 13th, we're winding up with that Sunday instead of Saturday. That's okay. Let's say we then shipped it, the rest of them, the 18th. So we'll just ship the remaining 6 and 7. All right, there we go. So now here's the problem. So the problem is, oh yeah, we're not actually getting the quantities off of the, yeah, oh, that's not going to work, is it? No, I think it will work as long as we get the total, which means we're going to need to get the max. So we can see it is tracking the week it shipped, and I think it'll be okay. What I don't want to do is I don't want to sum these up and get like 120 and 120, 140. But I think we can just take the max of both of these. And then I'm thinking we take the minimum of the week shipped so that everything shows up in that first week. So let's do that. All right, so we can now get rid of all of this. I'm not going to be able to test this anymore, though, am I? I didn't want to test this. I think it's going to be okay. I think for the sake of time, I'm comfortable enough with it now. I could come back later and do run some scenarios through, like in a future broadcast. Hopefully for that one, I'll actually have some examples prepared so it runs a lot faster. But this should be good. I'm getting comfortable with this. There's a unit of measure issue here. I'm going to do this. Not going to get into why now, but I'm going to do that. Yeah, this would be a better field to use. Glad that came up. And as you can see, for those of you who have experienced building reports, in my opinion, is always a very iterative process. Like I do my best to get something out there as fast as possible. That's why I like creating a mock-up. But then as you build it, it's never, hey, this is what I want. You build it and then you're done. It's always a back and forth process. And then you want to throw stuff at it to try to break it. So, even like this with this base order quantity, this would have come up at some point. I just happened to notice it. But it's just part of the process. So for week ending, oh no, it's not a field that's available. It must be calculated on the fly. Oh. Well, that could be a problem. I have a feeling this is going to break, but we'll see what happens. We might end up having to do a formula to calculate week ending date, which is still okay. We can still do that. Let's see if we get lucky here. Let's do it this way. And we don't need the key anymore. I'll just turn it off in case I want to add it back later. So I'm going to wind up grouping by the week ending date and the item class. And I think those are the two main things I need. So if I come back here, we got weeks on the bottom, and then we want the ability to filter by item class. And that's really the only two, what I would call dimensions in data warehousing language that I need to care about. So that we should be good there. So item class. Week makes more sense to me that's first. It's like a higher priority. Then quantity ordered, quantity shipped. And here's where I think it's going to break. Where'd I go? There. So I don't think we're going to be able to group on this. Not able to group on that. Okay, not the end of the world. So we just need to come up with a formula for calculating the week ending date. I'm just going to Google for Excel because there's a ton of Excel content out there. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so let's try this. Let's get rid of that. Let me think about this here. I'm just coming up with a quick way to be able to flip back and forth between grouping and testing an individual order. Oops. I'm really hoping that the new UI, which is a total rewrite of the application, will make things run faster even on a local laptop. Fingers crossed on that. We'll see what happens. Okay. So basically, I'll turn these fields on and turn these fields off when I'm not grouping. And I can flip back and forth between the two easily. Okay, so then, ooh, let's leave that there actually. Let's leave that. And let's then go with our formula, which at this point, we wouldn't even need the date info table. So let's just pull that out of, yeah, we wouldn't even need that. So let's just pull that off of the ship date here. So it'd be the ship day plus 7, and then I think it might even be the same formula here. Week. Oh, no, it's different. Day of week. So day of week. Oh, really? Is that formula right? Wish I could do math on a live broadcast. I can't. We'll just spot check a few. So if we're pulling up August 7th, 2024, we're going to add 7 days to it. So that will take us to August 14th. And then we're going to take the day of the week, which I don't even know what that is. Let's just do that as a separate formula here. Let's keep this one on here and call it old week shipped. And let's see, week shipped. And I want to do another calculation. Day of week. Oh, there. Try it again. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Day of week. Okay, let's look at that. Okay. It's okay. It looks like Excel's going to allow us to just add 6 to it. Oh, maybe we just need to do it this way. I think this might work. That's a bummer that that week field is not an actual field in the date info table. That sure would be nice to be able to group. To me, the whole point of having it there is to be able to group there. Oh, right. So we're going to turn these off. Let's turn these on. Let's do a quick check to see. Let's validate that theory. Date info table. I think week ending is not an actual field in the table. Yep, it is not. So Acumatica, that would be a good feature request for anyone who has the ability to submit feature requests, because I don't. Be nice to have that as an actual column so then we can group by it instead of having to do this clunky math that I'm doing here. Okay, where do we wind up here? So we wound up with July 13th, 2025. Yeah, let's just stick with that example. July 13th, it calculates the day of the week as 3? No. Oh, that's the week ending date. Okay. So let's put our regular date back on here. Come on. Come on, computer. I'm checking the time here. I think hopefully I get to the finish line on this, and then it looks like we'll need to do part 3, still focused on choosing the tool in Acumatica, getting our data. But that's okay. That's not surprising that this part is what takes the longest. I think we're on the home stretch here, hopefully. Okay, so, ooh, that's still, oh, here we go, this. So shipped on the 8th. And that, so, okay, so I wasn't sure if Sunday was getting counted as a 0 or a 1. So it looks like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So the math on this is going to be add 7 to the ship date, then subtract the day of the week and add 6. So is that going to be right? The 8th, add 7, subtract the day of the week, which would be 3, 1, 2, 3, and then add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not going to work. You know what I'm tempted to do? I'm tempted to run a SQL script on this. Or just think about this a little more offline so I don't waste any more time on it. I think I'm at a good stopping point for today. So as you can tell, we're in the thick of it, but we are making progress. So I think that'll wrap it up here for part 2. I'll pick up in a part 3 live broadcast. Should be the next episode, where we'll figure out this week ending thing, and then we'll also pull the data for the inventory valuation, and then start, now that we have the data, which is the hardest part, then we'll start figuring out the visual side of it. Where do we want to go? A dashboard, report designer, stay in a generic inquiry and be less graphical, or kick it out to Power BI kind of have a feeling we'll wind up doing that, but I'm not sure yet. So I think that'll do it for today. Thanks for attending or thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.